But 20 years in the Legion will make a boy a man. 20 years in the Legion and they will give you land. 20 years in the Legion, you'll always have a home. 20 years in the legions of Rome.
Hey everyone, welcome to Hound and Stag Presents How Shit Works, the show where we'll look behind the curtain of how things are run in Meridies. I am one of your guests, Graf Ulrich. I am a knight, a pelican, and a royal peer. In full disclosure, I am also a former Kingdom Seneschal of Meridies, and I have so many opinions. Tonight, as always, I'm joined by my co-host, Sir Erik Martell.
Hi everyone, I'm Sir Erik Martell. I'm a knight and a landed baron, and I, like Ulrich, have opinions. I, unlike Ulrich, have never been Kingdom Seneschal, but I assure you I've caused grief for a great many of them. On tonight's episode, we're going to move from the peerages to the kingdom officers, and we're going to start out with the office of the Kingdom Seneschal. Now, this is the big cheese, the head honcho, the grand poobah, the man or lady in charge. And I can say this with all due sincerity, because I was married to a former Kingdom Seneschal, you do not want these people unhappy with you. Tonight, our guests are our current Kingdom Seneschal, who has an amazingly difficult to pronounce name, Mistress Zayn al-Munajjima, called Mijna or Mittens, probably, and Sir Griffin O'Suaird, one of Meridia's former Kingdom Seneschals. If could both of you please introduce yourself and tell the audience a little bit about yourselves?
Ladies first.
Hey everyone. My SCA official name is Zayn al-Munajjima. You're more likely to hear me called Mijna or Mittens, thanks to the glorious Countess Queso. Damn you, autocorrect stuck. I am a pelican of the society, and I am the current Kingdom Seneschal.
And I am Sir Griffin O'Suaird, a knight, a pelican, a former territorial baron, a former Kingdom Seneschal, a former Kingdom Earl Marshal, yada, yada, yada. I've been in the SCA since pretty much the dawn of time in Meridies, or close enough for me anyway. And my name's pronounced the way it looks. So there you go.
Well, thank you both for joining us. We're really glad to have both of you with us. It really means a lot to us to have you here, especially on this nice, cold, icy night. So, I mean, it's not like you could have gone anywhere else in the middle of a pandemic. So, you know, to keep you at home, we brought you an ice storm as well. All right. So tonight's words for the drinking game are bored or bod, because Mitten wants to see me die. Not to be outdone, Sir Griffin gave us kingdom law, not kingdom or law. It has to be kingdom law. So I'll be doing some wordsmithing tonight. And then, because that wasn't bad enough, Mistress Adriana, who's our scriptwriter, gave me crown. So it'll be very difficult for me not to drink tonight, but you're welcome to, you in the audience are welcome to drink with us or not. This is not required. It's an opt-in thing. This is, not a drinking culture issue. This is just to have fun. If you want to drink along with us. If you don't. If you want to drink water or coffee or Sprite or whatever, that's fine. I, however, will be drinking margaritas from my very nice Please Touch Pottery mug. And as always, I'd like to thank Between Two Peers for allowing us to be a licensed and authorized franchisee of their drinking game.
This is the first episode in a new series where we'll be covering kingdom offices. This will be a little different than the period series. And I'd also like to take a moment to point out that we are covering how these things work in Meridies. So if you're from another kingdom, some of these things might not apply to where you're at and might seem strange or odd, but trust us, Meridies is just plain strange and odd. So we're going to get to the first question, and the first question is a multiple question actually, and it is, how does one become Kingdom Seneschal? There are no specific requirements in either corpora or kingdom law for someone to serve as Kingdom Seneschal. What are the specific qualifications?
Doesn't count if it's part of a question.
Now you tell us.
Now I tell you. Doesn't count if it's part of a question. I'll go ahead and drink for that one. Doesn't count as it's part of a question. Doesn't count if it's put by our loving audience who wants to see me die.
That's two.
But I'll
right?
still drink for the first one because I didn't warn you.
That's two. He's not the boss of you.
So how do you become Kingdom Seneschal? You decide you want it bad enough. You are a member and you put in a letter of intent, basically.
Remember in the movies where they call for volunteers and the whole line steps backwards except for that one guy? Yeah, that's pretty much how you get it.
So do you find there any specific qualifications that you should have, or is it more of a sort of a nebulous suitability for the job?
I think you have to kind of sort of be a people person, because that is the main thing that you have to deal with. It's not really the rules, it's how people want to interpret rules. And then I think you probably have to have a love for insanity and a lack of sleep.
And in addition to being a people person, you have to balance it with knowing when you absolutely can't be a people person, because rules are rules are rules. And if somebody decides they want to break kingdom law, then you have to deal with it and drink.
So I'm gonna pipe in there. I also found that the ability to divorce yourself from your personal opinions and follow what the rules say, what the rules actually say, not what you want them to say. In the whole set was really important. There are plenty of times, and I'm sure you both can agree with this. I already probably have had instances of this, Mittens, where you want to say, I want to rule this way on this situation. I want to come down on this side of this, but absolutely. I can't. If I'm going to be fair, which is the job of the Kingdom Seneschal, is to be fair, is in that situation as far as the law allows, you just can't. And if you can't make that difference between yourselves, between your opinions and what the rules say, then it's going to be you're going to have a really difficult time.
Yeah, there's a disconnect between. There's a reason I have 3 names that people call me by. If I'm Mittens, I am your friend. You can come talk to me about anything and everything, whether I agree with you or disagree with you. If I'm Mijna, it's more of okay, now I'm being Seneschal. But if I break out my full SCA name, then there is a very definite disconnect between me as Mitty and me as Kingdom Seneschal.
All right. So you were, I'm going to follow up with that later. I have not, just question just came to me, but I'm not going to. So following up on that, you were both peers when you took the office. You were both already peers when you took the office. Do you think that was important? Did you, would it have been a doable job without being a peer?
Go ahead, lady.
I would say important, yes, because you go into the job with at least some knowledge of how shit works. Mandatory, no. If you're a strong enough personality with a strong enough background in Kingdom Law and Corpora and aren't afraid, if you don't have peer fear, because you will have to stand up to peers, then I think somebody that's not a peer could do it and drink Corpora or Kingdom Law.
There you go.
I got the double whammy of being made a pelican the same day they made me Kingdom Seneschal. But I was already a knight and had been a knight for a while. I had been Earl Marshal before that. So I had experience dealing with the intricacies of handling issues that arose from the populace, from the royals, Gulf Wars, and those higher overlords out in Milpitas that want to stick their nose in people's business a lot. Notice I'm trying to help you out there, Ulrich.
Hey.
Keep you alive for a little while. But if I hadn't had that, I don't think I would have been as effective, and I probably would not have wanted the job anywhere near as much. That experience and that level of comfort of being a peer, I think it helps tremendously.
And another thing, when you're an associate, there's or at least when I was a protege, there's a level of confidentiality that you have with your peer where you can talk about anything and everything and bounce questions off of them that you don't have as Kingdom Seneschal, because there are so many things in the job that are confidential.
Yep. No, that's
So
fair.
doable, yes. Advisable, no.
That's always fair. We talked a little bit about the qualifications. What is the specific process for being selected to be Kingdom Seneschal?
Like Griff said, step forward when everybody else steps back. You put in your letter of intent. You interview with the current Kingdom Seneschal and the Crown, rank. You basically go into a mentorship type situation with the current Kingdom Seneschal. And when their term of office is up, hopefully you're ready. And you get your warrant signed by the Crown and the current Kingdom Seneschal, and tag you're it.
Society Seneschal.
And Society Seneschal.
Yep. I had a very similar experience. The Kingdom Seneschal at the time put out a request for deputies, and I said, sure, why not? Put my name in the hat, and then wound up getting tapped on the shoulder to take the job.
So is it specifically the current Kingdom Seneschal that chooses the replacement, or is it the Crown, or is it the Crown and the Kingdom Seneschal in combination? Who ultimately decides?
They consult with each other. Ultimately, the Kingdom Seneschal cannot overrule the will of the Crown. So if the Crown absolutely says no at that point, if the Crown absolutely says no, then the current has to drop back in time.
So the
make a good enough case that that the Crown changes their mind.
Right. And the person has to be acceptable to the Society Seneschal as well. But the Society Seneschal is almost always going to rubber stamp what the Crown says, unless they have a valid reason to not, because they're the ones that sign the Kingdom Seneschal's warrant. So,
yeah, what they said.
Sorry. All right. It's just it's one of those things. It's not always easy. And the Crown doesn't always go with your suggestion. You might say, these are the people that I have, and this is the person that I really think would do the best job. And sometimes they choose one of the other people. Also, by the way,
they choose somebody else completely.
I've never seen that one happen. I'm not saying it hasn't. I've just never seen it. Sometimes you put in for it as a joke because it'd be funny and then the Crown comes to you and says, "Hey, we really want you to do this job," and you ask them off if they're off their rocker, and then you still get the job.
Talk about yourself there, huh?
I am, because I thought they were off their rocker. But I love them, so I said yes. All right, so now you're in the office. How does all of that work? How does the paperwork work? Do you do it all alone? Do you have deputies for it? There's so much paperwork.
So much paperwork, so many reports. Oh, no. Yeah, no, I don't do it all by myself. I don't know about Griff. I don't know what his deputy situation was, but yeah, no. I would have to give up. Assuming I had unlimited funds, I would have to give up my mundane job and devote a full 40 to 60 hours a week just to the Kingdom Seneschal job if I didn't have deputies. Because it's insane. There's reports and there's emails and there's reviewing, yada, 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 yada. So much paperwork.
Yeah, there is so much more to do now than there was when I was Kingdom Seneschal. For me, it was more like a part-time job. I could get away with about 20 hours a week. I had 3 or 4 deputies that really helped me run the show, and then I had folks that were kind of like the ombudsman that we have now, that, were my contact people in different parts of the kingdom. If I had a specific problem or a fire that popped up down, wherever it was. But it was nowhere near as bad as it is now.
So these deputies, how do deputies work and how are they chosen?
Tag, you're it.
Pretty much. Hey, you.
Hey, you, I need help. You try to balance not overloading somebody, because an effective leader always has more volunteers than they have spots to fill. So you try to balance not burning the people out that are volunteering to help you with giving other people a chance. And that's a big part of this job, is noticing people, fitting their unique abilities into the job that needs to be done. And then sometimes it's just plain and simple. For example, we've got a current member of the populace that is holding one deputy position, 2, 3 maybe, and she's desperately trying to find a deputy of her own to take over at least one of her positions. And sometimes it's just a matter of getting the word out, advertising, making a job seem funner than it really is, because a lot of the deputy positions are tedious.
Yeah, I'm sure Erik doesn't understand anything about a deputy position that he can't get rid of.
Nothing. I know absolutely nothing about that. 5 years worth of nothing.
I always looked for deputies that I thought could take over for me if something were to happen or I needed to step back all of a sudden. And I was very, very blessed. I don't know if she's listening, but Mistress Odendisa was a godsend as my deputy, and I was so happy that she agreed to step up and take over for me when I stepped down. So thank you.
Yeah, that's part of it. You need people that can hit the ground running. Because life happens. Stuff gets in the way sometimes.
Absolutely. And you're always lucky to get the one you pick. If you get it So that's always a bonus. And you never feel like you trained them enough. No matter how much you train them, it never feels like enough.
And as somebody who did not get the amount of training that my predecessor would have liked, you're really training us more than you think you are. So like, leave that guilt aside.
I don't know if you know that everyone on here is Southern.
Well, okay, fine.
That's a deep Southern.
We get guilt given to us when we're born. I carried you 9 months. I brought you into this world. I'll take you out. The whole thing. We all came up with the guilt.
Yep. There is that.
It's attached to us. All right. So on the day to day, what are you responsible? What are your kind of responsibilities do you have on a daily basis, and then sort of on a weekly, monthly, quarterly? How does all of that work? Because I know you've got reports, and I know you've got duties and things you have to check every month. And
I'm gonna let Griff go first on this one, so we can see a progression of then to now.
Progression. I did monthly reports, I think, to my boss, and since we didn't have social media and most of our stuff was done by email, during Crown List, when Crown List was over, I had to usually make a phone call or send an email to let them know who won. If there were spectacular problems that somebody needed to know about right away, I would notify them about that. Otherwise, I was given a lot of free rein to pretty much put out fires as best I could, the way I could, and just tell them about it after the fact. The world is a lot different place now than it was 12 years ago.
All right. Daily, I check my emails at least once a day. For those of you that don't personally know me, I am literally almost always on Facebook. I just have it up in the background, minimized behind. I answer Facebook messengers all day long. I meet weekly with the Kingdom Law Committee. I'm always available to people that want to talk, that have problems, that want to bitch. I have quarterly reports to my boss, so there is that. That's different. I review Kingdom Law constantly because questions always come up, and I don't want to give an answer off the top of my head. Oh yeah, by the way, drink. That was one of the best pieces of advice I got, was always have a portable copy of Kingdom Law drink with you when you go to events. I think, Ulrich, you told Mistress Zayn that. Always have Kingdom Law with you so you can answer a question. I check the warrants folder. I remind the Crown, drink.
Damn it.
I remind the Crown to sign their warrants or to sign anything else that needs to be signed. I put out fires, sometimes spectacular fires. Sometimes it's a matter of giving my boss a heads up and say, hey, by the way, you should probably know about this. I don't think anything's going to come about it. But one thing she told us, my very first meeting, we have Zoom meetings quarterly with her too, is that she hates to be surprised. She absolutely hates to be surprised. And I'm very much the same way. I would rather know about something and not need to know about it than need to know and not.
Amen.
And pandemic is weird. I don't have the in-person connection at events that Griff and Ulrich both had. There's no, hey, can I talk to you for a minute? at a distance.
This is 5 minutes of your time.
Yeah, I don't get that. I get Facebook messages.
Not going to last forever.
I know. I'm glad. I want it to be done.
Let me tell you.
And safe.
I could not walk from one side of Gulf Wars to the other without like 25 interruptions. I spent a whole week at Gulf Wars just walking the site back and forth, putting out fires and answering questions as I went every day.
Now,
That sounds terrible.
When you were Kingdom Seneschal, that was after Glenabman had gone Kingdom, correct?
Right.
Okay. Because I imagine it was probably more difficult when Glenabman was still part of Meridies.
I was Earl Marshal when Glenabman was still part of Meridies. Yes, that was much more difficult.
Wow.
The fires were truly much more spectacular, and you had to deal with them as the autocrat and the Kingdom Seneschal. So, yeah.
So, is there anything that requires emergency notification of the Society Seneschal? Something that would be an immediate issue?
Mundane legal issues.
Okay.
Yeah, I love me a child molester. That's just a great way to, end a work day and have to get into the SCA business.
Yeah.
So we're not doing phrasing anymore, right?
No, phrasing's not a thing.
Ouch.
Okay, so on that note, how often do you interact with the bod? And what sort of things are involved with that? And why is it Bart's fault?
Always Bart's fault. It's always Bart's fault. I personally have never had, knock on wood, I mean, I've only been in the job for 4 months. I have never personally had any direct interaction with the bod, except for when Barton Oda moved back to Kingdom. I begged him to fight Crown and step back from the bod like Alenon did, and he politely declined. But I was not communicating with him in his capacity as a board member. That's my interaction is directly with my boss, the Society Seneschal.
Oh.
Fun.
You.
I think I had to deal with the all-powerful, all-seeing wizard behind the curtain there once or twice. Like I said, it was much more Wild West feeling when I was Kingdom Seneschal. If an immediate legal issue came up, we had to make phone calls, and that's what I had to deal with them on. There wasn't this overwhelming policy that comes down about what you can and can't do on Facebook now, and that kind of thing. It was pretty much, you see a problem, fix it, and then tell us about it. And if it's a real serious, mundane problem, tell us about it before you fix it. So I got lucky in that regard.
So as Kingdom Seneschal, you're the legal representative of the kingdom. So you have the legal hat on. Is it sometimes difficult for people to understand the difference between the legal side of the SCA and the game side of the SCA, and how that interacts with they interact with each other?
Sometimes, yeah, because we put such a focus on the game side and about the quasi-historical aspect and how the crown is all-knowing, all-seeing, all-powerful. A lot of people don't realize that the crown, yes, they are all-powerful, but only within a certain framework. If there's something that they want to do that breaks mundane law, then it's our job to be the no fun people and say, no, Your Majesty, you can't do that, Your Majesty. I'm sorry, Your Majesty. And it's sometimes hard for people to understand that just because they're crowned doesn't mean that they don't have to follow the rules.
Sorry, Sprite brought me a cookie.
Oh, cookies!
Oh man,
I want a cookie.
Oh, White Hershey's Kiss there.
No.
Aw.
Yeah, I know. It's a good life. I think that for me anyway, the biggest difficulty I had with the legal representative were the instances where we did have a violation of mundane law. And the people who were around the person who violated law, obviously they didn't know it. They didn't necessarily believe what was going on. And I became the bad guy because I was the one that had to come down there and put my foot down and say, no, this will not happen. Or I'm sorry, they, took this person away in handcuffs for whatever reason. So they are no longer part of the SCA.
And it's hard when the offender is a close personal friend of the crown and the crown is caught unawares.
Yeah. Or is a very popular person in their portion of the kingdom, a leader. And, everybody's caught flat-footed when they find out that something has happened. And as a Kingdom Seneschal, it is your job to go in there and say, okay, let's fix this. Let's make it right on our end. And we let the mundane authorities handle this. We're just going to say this person's not playing with us. And, but that's not a way to win a popularity contest. And it's certainly not a way to be welcome in certain parts of the kingdom when you have to do that. And I hope no one ever has to do that again, but I know that's a pipe dream.
Yeah.
Man,
Not in this job. Not in that job.
So, rolling from unpleasant subject to unpleasant subject, our next question is, what happens if you were selected by one crown, but the next crown doesn't want you in the office?
For folks, before they get into answering this, for folks that don't understand, a lot of times you become a deputy under one crown, and then your deputy's warrant is signed by one crown, but you're going to step up during another crown's reign. There's a time gap there that a lot of people may not know about.
Okay, see, I completely misread that question when you gave us the script. I would think, now this is me going unscripted, sorry, Jess. The current Seneschal can extend their warrant until the next crown is hopefully more favorable. The current Seneschal can choose another candidate and scramble to get them trained in a very short time frame. Griff?
Well, that's how I became Kingdom Seneschal. Ha ha!
Tell us a story, Uncle Griff.
Tell us a story, Griff.
It just so happened that I put my name in the hat. There were a couple other folks who put their name in the hat, and the sitting crown at the time, and the Kingdom Seneschal picked a candidate. And then I think it was about 4 or 5 months to go before the changeover happened. The incoming crown said, nope, this person's not acceptable to me. Let's do something else. And in the interim, the third person who had submitted had taken another kingdom office. And so it fell to yours truly to fill in the spot for 2 years. And it was a scramble. Everybody was, there was a lot of people who were unhappy and upset. And it's not a good thing to have happen for anybody, whether you're.
It starts the whole thing off on a bad foot.
It does. And it was a painful time for some folks in Meridies right then. So I hope it never happens again.
So My script writer put a little dig into this this script for me on this next question, so I'm going to go a little off script with the actual question because I ain't saying that. So,
Do you want me to? Because I will.
no,
Only if Ulrich gets to answer the question.
So, how do you deal with disagreements with the crown? So, there are plenty of things decisions that have to be made, and sometimes when you're dealing with a crown that doesn't agree with you on a philosophical level, how do you deal with that?
Mitty, have you had a disagreement with the crown yet?
Not an out and out disagreement.
Okay.
Kind of a philosophical, but no.
I mean, if they disagree with your interpretation of kingdom law, for example.
I think Uncle Griff has a story.
Yeah. So when it comes to game side things, all you can do is state your opinion. Support your argument as best you can. Try to convince the crown that they're wrong, or the action that they want to take doesn't need to happen, or does need to happen if they don't want to take it, whatever the case may be. When it comes to legal stuff, I put my foot down and I said, no, you will not, you cannot, you don't have any say in the legal realm here. And that's an eye-opening conversation to have in a game where we play fealty and the king's word is law and all that sort of thing. When you have to have that conversation with the crown, it was not a happy experience, but they saw the error of their ways. They gained wisdom. They looked at a 6'6", 300 and whatever pound guy and went, he's probably going to win this one. And we agreed to disagree on the philosophy, but the law had to be obeyed.
How many crowns was that we missed drinking?
Too many.
At least like 6.
Really, Erik?
When you ask a question, one must be prepared to get an answer.
Oh,
okay. Well, y'all gonna float me out of here.
You and me both, brother.
Okay, so I believe the next question is solely directed to His Excellency Griffin. It's been a few years since you were Kingdom Seneschal. What do you see has changed with the office since you served?
So here is my unpopular opinion, and if John the Bear Killer is listening, I will apologize in advance. Social media has changed the SCA, and with that, I firmly believe that SCA corporate has taken a lot more steps to control the phrase SCA, Society for Creative Anachronism. And there are a lot more rules and a lot more regulations and a lot more policy that we have to follow now. From an administrative side of things, I personally think it has taken a lot of fun out of the SCA. I know it's probably a lot of it is necessary. Lawyers are much more prevalent in today's world than they were when I was Kingdom Seneschal. But it just strikes me as Mitty could take 60 hours on the job, and a lot of it is that. And I think that's unfortunate.
Counterpoint, if I may.
Sure.
Okay, you said you've been in since rocks were dirt.
Mm-hmm.
For contrast, and I don't know how many people are aware of this because I seem like a fixture, but I've been playing the game for 8 years, coming up on 8 years. So my perception of the fun is different than your perception of the fun. Social media allows me to get to know people. My Kingdom Law Committee is spread out literally all over the kingdom, from Wetumpka, Alabama, to me in just south of Nashville, to Birmingham, to Atlanta, to another one in Murphy. I mean, we're literally all over the kingdom. I would not ever have gotten to know my kingdom law clerk as closely as I do without social media. I would not, and this is Mittens talking. This is not an official. There's nothing I'm saying right now is official.
We have a disclaimer. Everything on this show is your personal opinion. You're not speaking as authority right now, unless you say you're speaking as authority.
No.
Right.
That's why I'm Mittens tonight. There are bad things about social media. I will give you that. I will venture to say that it has done more to enhance the SCA, especially in the age of pandemic.
I will give you all of that. It is a great tool and it has great benefits. But I see the biggest rule changes or the biggest changes in the office of Kingdom Seneschal have come as a result of social media. And the policies that we've had to develop to deal with social media.
No, this is just how I keep my thought in my brain, because I'm going to say something when y'all are done.
Okay, I'm done.
All right. So as the portion goes, I have opinions. Social media is the absolute best thing to happen to the SCA. And at the same time, it is the absolute worst thing to happen to the SCA. It has brought us closer, but it has made every squeaky wheel that just wants to complain have a platform. And some of those complaints we need to hear. Some of those complaints we need to know about. Some of those complaints are things that have driven someone out of the SCA 20 years ago and they haven't played since. And you find out information from that person that you need for an investigation, or you need to know about someone that you didn't already know. And that's fantastic. Some of those, are people who haven't played in 20 years, but talk about having played, why they don't play anymore every 5 days on social media that you don't need to hear about. So it's a balance of things.
Define me.
Right.
There is no invalid complaint.
Right.
There are what some might see as excessive complaints, but behind every invalid complaint, or behind every complaint,
yes,
is a kernel of truth.
Sometimes it's a misconception.
Perceived truth.
There we go. I'll go with perceived truth.
Behind every complaint is a perceived truth. And part of what I've been working on since I stepped up is transparency and accessibility. And if somebody comes to me and complains and says, well, 20 years ago, blah, 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 I'm going to try to figure out what the problem is, even if it's nothing more than it allows me to say, I'm sorry that would happen. I'm sorry that happened.
Oh, can I throw one other thing in there real quick?
Sure.
Travel.
Yeah.
When I was Kingdom Seneschal, we had email and that was it. So I traveled a lot around what was then Glen Aubin and Meridies now. I think that you could be a semi-effective administrator, if not necessarily a people person, and do the job today using social media and electronic means to communicate and probably get the job done just fine.
It's not the same though.
No, it's not.
Good for face-to-face interaction, and that was one of my goals. Was hopefully pandemic will. Hopefully, it will be safe soon enough. How to phrase this? Hopefully, it will be safe close enough to where I'm not a lame duck and I can travel.
Right.
Because I did it beforehand. Yes,
So Sir Colin points out in the chat that he goes, "Wow, 2 past and 1 present Kingdom Seneschals and 1 future Kingdom Seneschal." So,
if it wasn't for Connell's lovely wife and me being absolutely terrified of her, I would tag him as my deputy. But she's already said, not only no, but hell no.
I think it's crystal clear that Sir Connell is even jealous of the idea because he harbors a desire in his heart to perform this task. I think that's clear. And I'm going to jump in on this, having this moment, say one thing about social media. I'm a big fan of social media, okay? Like, I think we probably all get that, right? But that said, social media oftentimes gives a veneer of legitimacy to people whose experience, knowledge, and education doesn't warrant that legitimacy because we all get that platform. So you have, when we say the old saw, you have to take everything with a grain of salt. On social media, you better take it with a ton.
Man, what happened to that uneducated thug Erik that used to wander around just speaking his mind, and it was profanity laced, and
you can't live with Mistress Gwen that long without having some education rub off on you.
That's fair. That's fair.
I mean, not that he has a college degree or anything, and not that he's not.
One of my favorite lines is Martell plays stupid really well until you get to know him.
No, my co-host is kind of awesome.
He is amazing.
Right. So we're going into the last of the script questions before Katerina comes around here and actually wrings my neck for not moving on, which she told us to do 3 minutes ago. So we're about to move on to the next question, but this is the last scripted question, and then we have some populist questions. So what we need after the populist questions are more audience questions. So if you'll put your questions that you have in the live feed chat, Graf and Katerina will save them for us, and we'll try to get to as many of them as we can at the end of the show. All right, so Mittens, what takes up most of your time and energy in the job?
My energy is I'm always on. I am always on. I'm always Kingdom Seneschal. Even when I'm not, it's always in the back of my brain, and it's an energy drain. My time is communications, whether it's email or reports or messenger or face-to-face or Zoom, or that's the biggest time suck, is communicating with other people. It's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing at all. It just is what it is.
Yeah.
The most rewarding thing. Oh, sorry. Did you get to that part?
I haven't got to that part yet, but that's okay.
Okay, sorry.
All right. So that actually brought me to something. So I kind of half on the last question and half on this question. I kind of straddled the whole social media access that everyone has to you through Messenger and chat and email, and Griff's, which was just snail mail, telephone calls, and emails, email. Right? Yeah, and emails. But the 24-hour access to the Kingdom Seneschal on just a, hey, I need to send you a note thing, or hey, did you know about this? And then trying to tell me that I can't tell you about this officially, but I need you to know this. You can't tell me that. Once you've told the Kingdom Seneschal, you've told the Kingdom Seneschal, whether it's official or unofficial. I can right now tell Mittens that someone's still doing something horrible, and she Mijna also knows. I want people to understand that, because Mittens said a minute ago about your buddy Mittens and your friend Mitty and Kingdom Seneschal Mijna. That's great, but if I tell any of those three something, they all know, whether it's in an email, in a personal chat, in a Facebook message. And just so we have it out there, email, if you have an official complaint, email is where you send official complaints, correct? That's still the preferred platform?
Yep.
Okay.
It's
Make sure I get that.
It's got to be email for me to have a paper trail. But yes, you're right. Anything that people vent to me about, complain to me about, say, hey, did you know? Yeah, it's all me.
Yep. All right. So for both of you, what do you find most rewarding about the job? Sorry, here's your spot, Mitty.
Knowing that I'm doing the absolute best damn job I can, and hopefully making a difference, and hopefully not setting the kingdom on fire.
For me, it was twofold. The first part was I got to help a whole lot of people do things they wanted to do. I got to see the smiles on their faces when they got to take this idea and make it real. In addition, I basically was the vice president, whatever you want to call it, of a corporation, and had 3,500 roughly people underneath me for 2 years. That was valuable experience for me personally, in learning how to talk to people, how to deal with problems on the fly, how to organize, dealing with contracts, dealing with budgets, dealing with folks that didn't know how to do that stuff and were making my life, problematic. So it was a cool learning experience, and I am so glad I got to do it. But the very most important thing was making people be able to experience their version of the dream for a little while. And that will always be the coolest thing I get out of the SCA and out of that job.
Excellent. So we're at the portion of the show now where we go over topics, myths, and misconceptions. And I'm going to lead us off with one. And I feel like we spent the last 50 minutes or so sort of explaining this, but I'm going to ask it anyway in case there's something extra you want to add. Why does everyone say this job sucks?
Define suck. I mean,
it's terrible. You always look unhappy. Everybody who quits it walks around like there's their own personal cloud around them. Remember, I was married to a former Kingdom Seneschal. I can go on for literally hours.
the job is hard. The job is difficult. The job is a time suck. Your brain never shuts off. Yes, you have people you can confide in, but confidentiality weighs on you. But, and like I said, I've only been in for 4 months. Ask me again in 2 years. But I don't think the job sucks. I really don't. I think it's challenging and rewarding, and it is what you make of it.
Jessica is going to yell at me in the comments again, and that's okay. The sucky part about this job, the absolute worst part, was the day I had to sit down with the Crowns and share with them the police report on one of their citizens and what that person had allegedly done in the real world. And as I get older, I am becoming an emotional softie. I will tell you that up front. I cry at the drop of a hat these days, but I cried that day that I had to sit there in front of a queen and a princess and tell them and let them see the heinous things that had occurred in our world. That was the suckiest day of my life.
Yeah, you see the seedy underside of things that you desperately try to protect the populace from.
Yep.
I'm going to chime in on this one too. That's kind of along the same lines. It's when someone that you love dearly, a dear friend of yours, let me be clear, calls you up and explains the sexual assault to you.
Yep.
That happened to them. It's when you have to read a banishment in court and you can't tell everyone who wants to know. You can't warn them it's coming. You can't tell them that this person that they all love and respect has done something horrible, and you have to read it, and then you have to field questions for 2 weeks about people calling you and giving personal stories of what a great person this person is, and the report you have, the situation that you have, and and not being able to tell them that. You just have to say, I understand, I can listen to you, but I will have to, in the end, I won't be able to do anything. This has moved on to society now, and it's their responsibility. So those were the hardest parts for me.
And I say this, having done 2 Greater Kingdom offices, and I suspect this holds true for every greater office. You get to hear input from all the local officers underneath you. And when people send in their local reports, they don't always tell you the best news. They always tell you the bad news. And when you get those phone calls and you get those emails, it's never, hey, so-and-so did a fantastic thing, and I just want you to know that they're out there being a good representation of your group, your kingdom, whatever. No, it's always, did you see him kick that puppy at the event the other day? Or, did you see her take her clothes off and run drunk naked across the field? Or heaven forbid, did you see that guy get drunk and juggle a copperhead? Which actually happened.
Yeah,
So
I always
there you
miss
go.
the good one.
Yeah, but you get the crap, and that's the sucky part of the job. However, as I said, I also got to see people make their dreams come true. I got to stand up for what is right, for what is just, and to defend those people that needed defending, whether they knew it or not. And at the end of the day, I could lay my head down and say, yeah, this job was bad, this job sucked, but I really enjoyed it.
So, short answer to all the blather, parts of the job suck.
Mm-hmm.
Individual instances suck.
Yep.
The job itself, I personally think it's more good than bad.
Yep. You get to do a lot of good. All right. So I was going to ask a more serious question, but we've gotten really serious there for a second. So I'm going to get to the part which I'm going to, if you don't use the word that I'm thinking of in this answer, then I'm going to use it at the end. But before I do that, I need to say board, kingdom law, and crown, because we haven't drank in a while. And if I don't make it all the way through at least one margarita night, I'm going to be very disappointed in myself. All right. So we've kind of brushed this, but there's a specific word I'm looking for. Let's see if we get it. Why all the no fun? Why does the Kingdom Seneschal office seem anti-fun? Don't bust your brains trying to think of the word. I'll give it to you at the end if you don't get it.
Liability. Liability is why it's no fun.
Yeah, liability.
See my comment about juggling copperheads.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, when the Crown decides that it's wise and prudent to have dangerous things at their coronation, liability is a big thing. We got to protect the SCA. And no, we cannot. Wait, that was Crown, so there's 2. And while we cannot overrule the wishes of the Crown, 3.
I got you. You just keep talking.
While we cannot overrule the wishes of the Crown, we can damn sure make sure that what they're doing follows Kingdom law corpora and does not break mundane law. 5?
5. You threw in a kingdom law in there.
Love you,
and I don't know about the 2 of y'all, but I didn't have a terrible amount of crowns wanting to break kingdom law It was usually the populace that had issues with breaking kingdom law. So there's 3.
So
And I want those.
what I ended up having a lot of was people having to find ways to maneuver through our governing documents. Maneuver through our governing documents and make sure that we met the requirements set forth by site rules and modern law, so that our powers that be could have the fun that they wanted without having any issues with the society level governing force. And then we could all have fun. See, so you can go through all of that without having to say any of those 3 damn words.
What he means by governing documents is kingdom law and Kapora.
I'm empty. I'm happy to send the lovely Graf and Katerina for some more booze.
Tell her to pass the screen.
Well,
All right.
Strictly on a personal level, I would also say it's no fun because, I probably couldn't do it while I was Kingdom Seneschal.
Oh no, you were the captain. By the way, in case folks don't know, when I became a squire, I was told one of the rules for Sir Colin McDale's household, one of the rules he gave me was, if Sir Griffin tells you to do anything, you decide whether or not it's going to be fun or not, and then you can go ahead and do it if you want to. But if he starts out with, I can't do it, but it'd be funny if. Yeah, I had his permission to get out of that.
Damn Connell ratting me out, I tell you.
Sounds like that.
And now Ulrich has ratted me out.
Just for the record, our tech goddess says that the storm's picking up where she is. So if the live feed drops, that's why. And if that happens, you can catch us. I'll post the Zoom link in the chat, and you can join us there. So we have a way of moving forward if that happens. All right, Erik, you're up.
All right, so it looks like we've hit the time where we should probably move to the audience questions. And we have several.
Wait,
so
I want to have one populist question.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Really want one populist question. Who's your real boss?
Mundane law.
Yeah. Mundane law, the governing documents, kingdom law. Steph over there, wherever she is right now.
All right. Okay, so that sounds great. But if it's the crown, and if the crown and the society seneschal each tell you something different, who do you follow?
Does it violate kingdom law? Does it violate Kapora?
Yeah.
Does it violate?
Right there. I follow my
It doesn't
conscience.
violate any of those.
Judgment call.
I follow my conscience.
That's fair.
I go with society seneschal.
I mean,
It's a hard one.
it's a hard one, but if that would have to be a judgment call on a case by case.
I'm going to do a lot of reading. I'm going to do a lot of talking. But if the two parties disagree and it comes down to me, I'm going to do what I think is best based on my research.
Fair.
All right. Go with
We're going to shoot to the audience questions. And the first one, I think, will probably be relatively simple, but it comes from Ian McCann, and it's, what is an ombudsman and why do we have them?
Y'all are my eyes and my ears. You're my first line of, oh shit, what's going on in your area? What do I need to know? When I was an ombudsman, I assisted with investigation. But yeah, it's pretty much just, you're my eyes and ears.
I honestly used them kind of like deputy sheriffs. I couldn't get there. We didn't have Zoom. We didn't have social media. So it was, let me tap somebody on the shoulder that I trust and say, go deal with that problem until I can get down there or until I can get it fixed.
So, Baroness Rondlin asks, it would seem most, if not all, Kingdom Seneschals are pelicans as well. Is having that specific peerage preferred for the job? Just for the record, I was not a pelican.
Yet.
Just saying.
Griff, were you you were announced for the Pelican the same day?
I was given my pelican the same day.
Okay. You were given your Pelican the same day.
Here, you're the Kingdom Seneschal, and boom, now you're going to be made a pelican.
I don't know about preferred peerage. I think the Pelican administrative mindset helps. But, meh. You got 2 members of the chivalry and me.
Most knights don't want it. They don't want to have anything to do with it. My suspicion is most mods probably are the same way. They would rather be out on the field doing their thing.
Oh, I know one that's bucking for my job.
Well, yeah, there's always the outlier.
And you know who I'm talking about, Ulrich.
I do.
I know who you're talking about.
But I don't think it's required. I just think it usually conveniently falls into that slot.
So our next question, and pardon me, I'm having to scroll up a little bit to get to it, is Griffin. This question is specifically for you. It's from Sir Connell, who doesn't deserve the asking, but I'm gonna do it anyway. And it's, which was harder, Kingdom Seneschal or Kingdom Earl Marshal, and which was more satisfying?
Honest to God's truth, the Earl Marshal was a harder job because of Gulf Wars and having to deal, and no offense to any past royals, but every whiny duke in the world that attended that event had to come and say something about something. And I was blessed, I guess, to be the Earl Marshal when Baldar released the egg blunts, and they hurt. And every whiny duke, count, viscount, knight going out there in nothing but a kidney belt and a tunic that got hit in the collarbone, crying. I won't say crying like a little girl, but crying because they suddenly got hit hard enough that it mattered and it hurt. And they, didn't want to call it, but they kind of had to because it almost broke their collarbones. That was the hardest job. Kingdom Seneschal was the most satisfying.
No, that's pretty good.
Awesome.
Yep. All right. So I thought I'd gotten around this question earlier, but Master Kevin brought us back to it. He gave us he thought they meant that if the crown objected to the seneschal already in office, rather than the seneschal that was coming up. So when we asked what happens if the crown disagrees with the kingdom seneschal that a previous crown approved. So what happens if you're already in the kingdom seneschal job and the incoming crown doesn't want you in that job, wants someone else for that job?
Griff?
I am sure it has happened. I don't know for a fact that it ever happened. But I think that would be a very hard discussion between the crown and society about signing that warrant, pulling that person from the office, especially if it's an opinion and not, they did something just totally against the rules versus I don't like what they did kind of thing.
I have the actual answer if you need it, by the way.
Well, I suspect that would be the same answer that we saw just a little while ago, is that that person, that Kingdom Seneschal, would end up going bye-bye. But I think there would be a much harder level of conversation than there were if it were another officer.
So I was really curious about this, based on some conversations that you and I have had, Ulrich, and I did some digging. In Corpora, in our governing docs, it says the Crown may appoint, remove, and replace greater officers of state in conjunction with the appropriate society officers if needed. My interpretation of that, and I am the interpreter and arbiter of kingdom law. So, but this is our governing doc, so I can't speak to whether or not my interpretation is correct. But my thinking would be that the Crown that finds me offensive would have to convince my boss to remove me, because they cannot do so on their own.
Correct. That is, they can suspend the office. They can suspend the office and appoint someone in conjunction with the Society Seneschal if they're absolutely adamant. But to remove you, it takes the Society Seneschal's agreement, or whatever society level officer it happens to be, if it's the Kingdom or Marshal, for example. But at the end of their reign, you come back into that position.
Yeah. To be completely removed from office, it would have to be something egregious in violation of mundane law, similar to a TRP.
Correct. I concur. Thanks for that fun question, Kevin. Love you, man.
He's probably hanging out with Connor.
What I thought you were asking when you asked the question the first time.
Right. I tried to avoid that the first time.
So
I was
let's
trying to
slide off of that. Here's a sliding away from that. And we're going to go to a question that was asked by Asa Colburn, and that is there anything that you would like local seneschals to work on or do more of overall?
This is to every seneschal I have in the entire kingdom. Get your reports in on time.
Please.
Please. It makes my life easier. It makes my reporting deputy's life easier. And it makes my boss's life easier.
What you got, Griff?
I, since the world was different back then and rocks were still warm, the thing that I experienced, and I experienced this as a local seneschal, and just so you're, for the record, I was a local seneschal for 10 months, and I put my foot in it so bad that I resigned because I did not think that the group deserved to deal with my utter garbage nonsense. So the thing I saw as Kingdom Seneschal and kind of wished was that local seneschals would take on more of a role of actually talking to people and not being part of the problem. Take on roles of mediator and try to solve problems before they become big enough that they have to be bumped up the chain for the next person to try to take care of.
Yeah.
Communication, that's what it always boils down to.
Again, we come back to that, keeping your personal opinions out of things and just working off the...
Yeah, there's that delineation between Carson and Griff.
Yep, and here I, as y'all are all my witnesses, I did not do that, and it was a bad experience for me. So
it's hard. It's hard maintaining that detachment.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard, and you have to have evolved. You have to have somebody you can vent to.
Mm-hmm.
Not in matters concerning confidentiality, but in matters like, oh my God, I can't believe Joe is so stupid. Love you, Erik.
Yep.
I don't know why
Damn
you
it,
can't
Joe.
believe it.
So,
Joe, I swear to God.
so y'all are of an age. You might remember the phrase Jim Jones and his little cult, right?
Mhm.
Mhm.
And how they all drank Kool-Aid. Yeah, I took Kool-Aid to a business meeting, and so I lovingly refer to that as my Jim Jones moment, where I meant well, but yeah, that didn't go down too well.
Ow.
Out.
Hey, brother, can't do that.
Yeah, I know.
Feel bad.
That's a pretty good shade. I'm not
But
going to lie.
you see, now Jessica can go, oh yeah, great. He loved child molesters, and now he's loving on a cult leader who killed all his followers.
All right. Out of context. It's not a thing. Oh, I love you, man. Oh. Hercules. All right, I'm just going on to the next question. There's nothing I can do here with that. All right, so
Right.
from Mistress Wooniman Winbin, would you do it again?
Would I do it again since Mitty's
Yeah.
still doing it? I think, as you well know, yeah, I would. I wouldn't like it, but I'd do it. I put my name in the hat already, so
I would do it if I was needed, if I was asked, if I was needed. I wouldn't voluntarily do it again.
right.
Ask me again in a couple of years. At this time, I'd say yeah, but I don't want to do it back to back. I won't do it back to back. I don't think anybody in their right mind would do it back to back.
I offered to extend for 6 months to allow, so 3 to 6 months to allow Honora to have more training.
That's 6 months.
Well, that and I did just pending board approval accept the emergency replacement deputy for society. So and it can't necessarily that's smart, but
So there may well come a point that you're going to be my boss.
yeah, that's terrifying.
Can you imagine trying to tell me no?
Yes,
Personally, I think you're all nutty.
yes, I understand that. We'll see how that goes for you.
I don't know why you think it's going to go for me.
All right, I was about to say that's it for the questions, but Katerina tells me we've got one more. She's putting it in the chat now.
Let me guess. It's who put Griffin in charge of anything?
Go ahead, Erik.
How many Kingdom Seneschals have had to step down early? And that's asked by Mistress Honora Draper.
I don't know. I know Theoden did and Honora did.
Yep.
We need a Kingdom Seneschal lineage. Actually, Martel, we need your wife. We need the brain trust.
That's all I remember. Just those two.
Yeah. Can we dial a Gwen? Is dial a Gwen an issue?
As he
Gwen,
picks up the phone.
If you're watching, could you, if you know that answer, could you pop that into the chat, and we'll answer it when we get to it if we get a chance. I seem to remember that Theoden stepped down a little bit early too. Then isn't that how you got into the job a little quicker than you expected?
For me? No.
That was how Stacy got into it.
Yeah. I
How about that?
followed Fiona. I was Earl Marshall when Theoden was Kingdom Seneschal.
Gwen informs us in the chat that she's working on the lineage.
Stacy says it's just 2, to her knowledge.
All right. Let's go to the shout outs, Erik.
All right. So this is the point where we all give shout outs to people who are doing things, from having online shows to just doing other good things in the kingdom. And because I get to lead off with this, I get to do mine first. And my shout out is to all your local seneschals. Do your damn reports and get them in on time. Make me life easier. Next.
Oh, I love you. shout out to Ugly Mugs, Avon, North Carolina, to Kirsten Ceramica, and to Firehorse Pottery. Shout out to my Kingdom Law Committee who are working their collective asses off without complaint. I don't tell them thank you often enough. So publicly, in front of God and everybody, thank y'all. And thanks to Martell and Ulrich for doing this every week, for keeping us all connected. Next.
Well, you know, I have an 8-year-old, so I don't get to watch a lot of these. However, I will throw this out that I want to give a shout out to our kingdom, because I see the people doing the things like this, trying to keep us all connected, keep us involved and engaged in the society. And that's happening across the society, but I only get to see a little bit of Meridians. So big shout out to all of y'all, because I think you're going to keep us in existence and keep us going until we get through with all of this. So thank you all.
So I have my normal one of the things that these shows have done there's so many shows out there that they've done is they made the SCA smaller. Lots of times we don't know what's going on the other side of the country, and then in West Kingdom, on tier, mid realm. But if you want shows that connect you with everyone across the known world, they're out there. Between Two Peers, Ask the Knights, Murder of Dukes, the Sisters interviews, they're all good stuff. Calibard's Corner, the Outlands Royalty. There's just so much stuff that you want to watch. But Mistress Ellen DeLacy is doing yeoman's work, doing just amazing work every week with the Meridian, with the Meridian stuff, and then monthly with Sir Griffin doing the Meridian, the social. It's just always something. And we have the Bardics. You can literally go to Bardics in Drakenwald and in Lockok, in Callantyr, and here in Meridies. Just, I mean, easy. Just turn on your computer and click on a Zoom link, and you're there. If there's a chunk of inter-kingdom anthropology that you want to learn about, it's there at your fingertips. Please use it. Please expand your horizons. All right, so last chance. Anything that we didn't cover that you want to go over right quick? Anything about your job?
I enjoyed interacting with the Crown. That was a fantastic way to see the behind-the-scenes stuff on a level that most people don't get. And you didn't have to win Crown List to do it. Granted, it was 2 years of your life to do it, but that was really cool. And I have to say, get ready, writing Kingdom Law was a lot of fun.
You're a poopy head, Griff.
Yes, sir, I am.
Mittens, anything you want to cover?
Nope, I'm good.
All right. Well, thank you both very much for joining us. We'd also like to say thanks to our support crew. Her Ladyship Jessica Osprey. I don't know if I can overstate how important she is to everything that happens. And not just this, but so much that's going on in the kingdom that maybe she's not the first person that you think of when you see what's happening. But I guarantee you, she's one of the people that if she stopped doing it, it would stop happening. We want to thank Mistress Adriana for her work with writing with the scripts, and Her Excellency Katerina for doing more than yeoman's work, trying to keep us on time despite our own personal failures, and Lord Kikuchi for all the technical support. Last, we'd like to thank you, our audience, because honestly, you're the reason why we do all of this, and all of these people come in together to help us get this done every week. And so we really appreciate you taking your time out of your day to join us for these.
So join us next Monday, February 22nd, where we'll continue the officer series by covering the Kingdom Earl Marshal's office, where we'll be joined by our guest, Master Edward of Yarborough and Earl Robert Glenn of Bach. Remember, all shows are 6 p.m. Central Standard Time.
Also, we will do our normal drinking game for next week's show. But as a bonus, you should make sure that everyone brings a donut to the gathering so we can join Earl Robert in his annual consumption. If you're watching us live, give us about 5 minutes for a break. Then feel free to join us on Zoom for the after show. Watch the live feed comments on Facebook for the link. We'll hang out and chat for about a half an hour after the show. Rap and Karina will post right about now.
Eric, you ain't right. Finally, if you're watching the replay on YouTube, if you're watching live on YouTube, please like and subscribe down here. Make sure you slap that subscribe button and ring the bell. And then if you're watching on Facebook, follow and like the video up here. And we're really thankful for you joining us. And we'll see y'all in Zoom in about 5 to 10 minutes. Bye, everybody.
Good Bye, y'all.
Good night, everyone.
And if I die in battle, tomorrow I will be home, though it's 70 days march to there from Rome. But a soul travels swiftly on the night wind, and if I die in battle, I'll be home again.